Hello and welcome to the Two Joes podcast. We are here on a Sunday night. We are going to talk about stuff. I don't know if it's even going to be newsworthy stuff or recent stuff, because I've kind of been laying off the news, quite frankly, and so we'll just talk and see where it takes us. Please welcome to the show, Mojo.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Thank you again for getting me out of my house for an hour. I'm going on, I think this is 30 hours that I haven't left my house. About 30 hours. Haven't left the house since Friday, but got some great stuff done this weekend. You know, I finally got some productivity. I got some motivation going on, and pretty much every shred of clothing I own is clean now, except what I'm wearing. And I got motivated from Dojo, our friend Dojo. You know, he bought that house recently, and he's been remodeling his bathrooms, and he motivated me. Next time you're up, come and check out my master bathroom. I tore it apart and put it back together.
Wow.
Painted and put a new vanity in, and you know, just keep my mind off of not being able to jam and not being able to go to the huddle and see a ball game. And it was actually an uplifting, productive weekend, and I'm in a pretty good mood tonight.
That's awesome.
I would say, yeah. What have you been up to?
I got some good yard work done today. I got the lawn mowed. We are in the process of planting our pumpkins for the year. We plant pumpkins every single year, and so this year is no different. And we're going out there. I'm filling up wheelbarrows full of dirt, and we're amending the soil with different stuff my wife purchased. She's actually the green thumb and the expert. I'm just the muscle and the shoveler. I'm the mule, yeah. So we're planning on planting Wednesday. Right now we're just prepping the holes and prepping the soil and getting that done. So that was good. Felt productive doing that.
Right on.
I think that's about it, though. Really, I haven't left the house, you know, other than the yard and to do little walks and riding. We're riding bike now around the neighborhood a little bit. So that's kind of the only house leaving I've done in over a week, I think.
Well, it's such a blessing that you, at least as far as I know, you can't catch COVID-19 just on the air, you know, on a draft that brings in air.
Someone sneezes and then I ride my bike through it.
Like 10 minutes later, or they sneeze 3 blocks over.
I don't know.
Then you don't know.
I think that's a stretch, maybe, but who knows? Weirder things have happened, right?
Well, I read or saw a graph today that was so interesting that if just take where you're sitting right now, you or me, and draw a 1 mile radius, it's likely that at least one person in that radius has the disease, or it exists on a banister or a doorknob or something like that. Within a 1 mile radius, there's like I forget the percentage probability now too.
Yeah, well, it kind of depends on where you're at too. I imagine it's much higher in New York than it is here in Utah. Right?
Much, yeah, I'm sure.
And there's always those little caveats to something like that. But yeah, I mean, I've got to go to the store tomorrow, and I'm not looking forward to it. You
got masks and everything?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you use, a scarf or something? Or
I haven't yet. I haven't yet. All the times I've gone to Costco, I've been to Costco twice, I think, and Smith's once since I've been hunkering down, and I haven't worn a mask yet. But tomorrow I plan on wearing a mask. I think my wife has those little blue ones that look like doctor masks. I plan on wearing one of those.
I've got one of those. My friend who's been helping me do the spring cleaning, she's very much into the safety, and she gave me one, and I hate wearing the damn thing. I really hate it.
I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'd rather just wrap a scarf around my head, you know, and just have my eyes poking out, and I don't know, I just feel cooler that way.
Yeah, there's some cool masks out there too, though. I mean, I don't see myself purchasing any of those, but they're out there.
There's some of them make you look like the Punisher. You know, some of them look pretty badass. So let's start off again. We start with glimmers. Have you heard any glimmers at all?
I'm afraid I haven't. You know, I kept hoping this trend in New York would be that things are going down and hospitalizations are going down. But I saw something on the news the other day where Cuomo was on the video, and he was saying they're losing like 300 people a day, pretty
Yeah,
steady.
I saw that same
No
thing.
real trend to go that it's going down, and it's like, gosh, it's sad.
Well, what I saw in that the stats that Governor Cuomo,
Cuomo, I think, yeah.
what he showed was like the last 9 days or something like that, and it was hovering right around 320 to 330, and then it seemed to dip down to like 289, and then the next day it went back up to 305. So we're looking at 300 people a day just in New York are dying. We just announced 3 new deaths in Utah here, and
Really?
130 new cases here in Utah.
Wow.
So it's still we're still going the wrong direction.
Well, yeah. I mean, I pulled up our stats for Utah not too long ago, and the curve is really crazy. I was trying to look for a trend, but man, the thing bounces around so much. At one point, it looked like we were really dropping and really looking good, but then it spiked right back up again. So if you draw a line through the middle of that, we're still not coming down, and people are going back out, right? I mean, last Friday was the soft opening of Utah, basically.
Yeah.
I imagine there's a lot of other states doing the same.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know specifically what states are doing it. I'm pretty sure Florida, pretty sure Georgia is doing it.
Yeah. Well, Big T and Dojo came over last night for a visit, and had a few drinks, and we watched my new obsession on YouTube. Remind me to get back to that, if you would.
Sure.
It's gotten me through this quarantine. It's been great. But Big T drove by the huddle and noticed it was open, and so the parking lot was absolutely barren. The lights were on, but nobody was there. 2 things going on there. It's a sports bar, and there's no sports going on. And, unless you're watching like the NBA players play video games, play the basketball in NBA 2K or whatever.
I heard sumo wrestling in Japan was still going on.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that too. Yep. And then I saw on ESPN today they had 2 hours of miniature golf championship or something like that. They call it the putt challenge or something like that. So that's kind of what they're down to. But shout out to the huddle. They have great food, and if you're if sports don't really matter to you that much, go and support them. Go get a French dip and some fries and a couple drinks, and I'm going to do that tomorrow too.
And you go in and sit down, or are they still takeout only?
No, they were never takeout. They just shut down entirely.
I'm not sure what got lifted exactly. I thought I saw something that it was takeout only at this point, because it's kind of a soft opening, like Georgia, it was just the bowling alleys and whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
As you know as well as I do, Utah has been, I say this in quotes, my air quotes, spared the brunt of this, if you will. We haven't been hammered like a lot of other states and a lot of other countries have.
Right.
And I think the soft opening means that now you can go sit down at Denny's or your sports bar. You can go into restaurants and order a meal and sit and eat it there. You don't have to take it away. And so, I think that most people around the world are going to be smart. If they decide to go out, they're going to wash their hands. They're going to take napkins with them to open up doors. They're going to have hand sanitizer with them, maybe a mask or a scarf, or so. Expect this to go on for a while. Through the summer and into the fall, we're going to see different behaviors in everybody.
Yeah.
Most people, I would say, except for these hero patriots that are storming the Capitol in Michigan with assault rifles, to open everything back up. But what do these people think they're doing? Main show. I don't get that.
I don't get that either. They just want to flex their muscle. I mean, ever since Trump got elected, these people now feel like they're represented and they have a voice, and they're kind of crawling out from underneath their rocks and things. And I don't know. They're still, as far as I know, they're still the minority.
No,
they are very vocal though.
Small.
And it's also happening in California, which I saw headlines. I didn't dive into that.
Yeah. That was surprising. I saw those protests.
Bit surprising, yeah. But, people want to work, and they need money. They have bills to pay. I can really understand it. I mean,
well, that's a good point, Main Joe. Is that the people we see in these protests, I don't think they're really there because they so desperately want to go get a haircut or a pedicure. They want to go back to work. They need a paycheck. They're anxious to get back to work.
Yeah,
you know, and that's mainly what they're doing. Let's open these restaurants back up. Let's
being idle is tough. I mean,
yeah, it is.
It's not easy. That's why I think these people that are saying, "Oh, these people on welfare are just," no, it's not that easy to sit around all day and just collect a government check. I mean, if you're able to work, you're going to want to work. That's my belief.
Well, if you talk to Lindsey Graham, that's what most Americans want to do. You know, we can't give you an extra $600 a week because then you'll just never go back to work again. That's the character of Americans. But he couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah, I think he's out in left field. He's too far removed from reality.
Yeah.
And I also saw where some of these protests, there were some new coronavirus cases that occurred, and they could be directly mapped back to those gatherings. Mm-hmm. Have you heard that?
Yeah. Yes, I saw that in the same report where I saw that the last primary election that happened in Wisconsin, where they did not allow mail-in voting or internet voting, they made them go stand in line. Mm-hmm. They have affirmatively tracked 30 new infections from that election, I guess you call it.
Primary election. It's an election. Yeah.
So they contact traced the 30 new cases from people, you know.
That's significant, right?
That really is. But we were doing a little primer before we got going here. You know, we always burn a little content before we get started. And as much as I hate to do this, you know, but we try to be fair-minded on the Two Joes podcast, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Neither of us are Trump fans. I would rather see a shoebox in the Oval Office than Trump. But and it surprised me that I hadn't heard this before. I just heard it today. I saw the footage and I saw the date stamp and I went, whoa, okay, that it surprised me. So President Trump has been lambasted. He has been hammered by the left, mainly by his opponents, for wasting all of February instead of getting us testing regimens in place and getting stockpiles, you know, gathered and getting a plan, you know, essentially getting a plan together. He's been really hammered hard on that. I saw footage of Dr. Fauci, who I respect very much, and you know, I love his calmness and his clarity, as Brad Pitt said. January 26th, Dr. Fauci stood before the world and said, the risk of infection in America here is very, very low. That was late January. And that kind of surprised me.
Well, at the time it was true. Our first case wasn't discovered until mid-January at the earliest, right?
No, it was December 31st, the same day as South Korea. December 31st.
Okay.
We had our first known case
Confirmed case. I thought it was January.
And South Korea. It's South Korea and America.
I remember them saying that, yeah.
So that kind of shocked me a little bit, and it made me temper myself a little bit. I mean, if Trump is listening to our leading infectious disease experts saying the risk here is very, like he should, and so I don't know. It doesn't excuse his disinfectant claim or the light and the heat, you know, and all that, and it doesn't excuse his imbecilic statements that he's made for years, you know, all that, but just. And it doesn't make me a Trump fan, but I had to at least bring that one to the fore, and you know, and bring it up for discussion, and both people listening to us, give us your comments, you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, but okay, let's put ourselves in his shoes for a minute. So he's the president of the United States. There's something going on over in Asia, big time. China specifically is having a meltdown. We've seen this kind of thing before, and it never really affected the U.S. economy like that. SARS and MERS and even Ebola didn't really affect the economy.
It didn't. Yeah, we didn't shut anything down.
And so, maybe late January. So it's been going on a month. We didn't have that very, very many cases, and your chances of getting it in January were, I imagine, really slim.
Yeah.
in
And I was
America.
traveling a lot back then. I was from here to Atlanta down to Key West and back for every 2 weeks. I was doing a lot of traveling. So I was prime candidate to catch this thing, and I didn't get it, you know.
All that being said, however, if I was president of the United States, I would, after Fauci said that, I would still say, okay, but where are we at with preparedness? I mean, it's not like Trump hasn't seen
Very
disasters
good
in
point.
his what you want to call it.
Lifetime.
No, I
Lifetime.
mean just his 3 years being president, if you can call him being president, because in my opinion, he isn't really a
No, he's an
president.
actor. He's a
He's an actor.
reality
Yeah,
show
he's
guy.
playing a
Yeah.
part. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
doing his thing. He's having fun. He's getting all this attention, which he craves and loves, and is critical to him. He's seen hurricanes, right? The hurricane that roared through. He knows that shit can happen, and wouldn't you want to be prepared? If you owned a hotel in Vegas and you thought, okay, well, something could happen to this hotel, wouldn't you want to have a plan in place? I don't know. I think that's where he fell down. February, he should have been planning, preparing, at least getting status updates on all the different critical areas. How are we looking on this? How are we looking on testing? How are we looking on that? How are they testing over there? Can we borrow some of that technology? Can we go over there and check it out? He didn't do any of that.
And he blamed the Obama administration for leaving the shelves empty. Isn't that pretty much a direct quote? Our shelves were empty. Okay, well, you had 3 years to refill them, didn't you, President Trump? You had 3 years to fill them back up.
Obama administration warned them in the transition that pandemic is one of the main things that could possibly happen that would just devastate the economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but blame it on Obama. Well, first, the military was completely out of ammunition.
No more bullets.
I didn't know that. I had no idea that. Man, we were defenseless until Trump got here. Thank you, Mr. President. And the shelves. Well, and he said we had worthless tests, the tests that were broken, tests that didn't work on a virus that didn't exist until about 3 months ago. So, I mean, this guy is just. He's exposed the sliminess of politics, and he is #1 slimy politician. He is the best at it I've ever seen. He's the best at being a slimy politician that I've ever seen. And
rewriting history and forgetting what he says. I mean, like, I didn't quite get to it, but I was trying to do a little prep before the podcast, and Brian Tyler Cohen had a segment on his channel where he was talking about Trump said something like, he said, we're going to be testing 5 million people a day. And then the next day he said, I never said that.
I didn't say
that.
The
next flipping day.
24 hours later. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not the first time he's done things like that. Sometimes he'll contradict himself in the same damn paragraph or the same damn spiel.
Yeah.
It's just nuts.
It's and what somebody in his administration, I believe, came out and said, nowhere on this planet or any other planet that I can think of are we going to be able to test 5 million people a day. It's just, that's not feasible. Yeah. We've tested, I think to date, we've tested 6 million total in a month and a half. And that's after ramping up and, but I'm sure that Trump and everybody around him, they're getting tested probably 3 times a week, but you and I, where do you and I go for a test?
Yeah.
I mean, my niece Kojo got one because she had symptoms and she was recently in New York. They made her a priority. You and I don't have symptoms. We don't really have a reason to get tested.
Right.
I'll bet we couldn't, unless we paid for it.
It's a good question. That's a good question. I know Joe Rogan's testing everyone that appears on his podcast these days, but he's paying over $300 per test. Plus, it's not an official test. It's it hasn't gone through all the trials and everything. So it's deemed accurate, but it hasn't been stamp of approval.
Did you happen to see last week Brad Pitt doing Dr. Fauci on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
And the part I got the biggest kick out of was when President Trump was sitting there saying, anybody who wants to get a test can get a test. That's the important thing. Anybody who wants a test, and the tests are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. They're
just like the phone call.
The transcript. Yeah, not quite as good as the transcript for the phone call, but they're pretty good. How can people support this guy? This clown. I don't know. We've come a long way since JFK. Wish we had a leader. I really wish we had a leader.
Yeah, on either side, because Biden, I haven't heard crap from him. He's fighting his new battle is his sexual misconduct accusations. He's getting put through the ringer on that, I guess.
And you know what? If only one accuser comes forward, then I think he's got that one beat. But he doesn't have the same way to slide through it like President Trump or candidate Trump or Mr. Trump. He had like 28 accusers over the years, and he slid right by them all. No problem.
Oh,
and
no problem.
Biden has one accuser, just one. And man, Fox News is rubbing two sticks together as hard as they can, trying to light a fire under that one. And I don't know. It could be true. It might not. I don't know what to make of that one.
A lot of people on the left are lighting fires too, because they're saying, look, Democrats, if you're going to kick Al Franken out because of his improprieties, then you got to do the same with Biden, right? And I know a lot of them are probably hoping that that is the case, and then Bernie can slide back in. That's probably the main reason why they're lighting that fire.
I'm sure some of them. That's motivating some of them.
On the other hand, they make a good point. You got to stand for something, Democrats. I mean, we know Republicans don't really stand for anything. They'll do whatever it takes to get reelected, and that's not a big mystery. But the Democrats, you'd think at least kind of stood for something.
Yeah, well, they always take the high road, and look where it got them.
Yeah, exactly. And so maybe that's why they're doing it this time. They're saying, look, we can't afford to do this anymore. The Republicans aren't kicking their people out, so we're not going to kick our people out. Well, okay, fine, but damn, we lost Franken, and it doesn't make you look good. It's not a good look I think one guy pointed out Kristen Gillibrand, who kind of spearheaded the Al Franken thing, and now she's supporting Biden full force. It's like, okay. And she ran for president too. So it's like, really? So that's going to come back to bite you, because you were like this on one hand and that on the other. You're just like any other politician now,
I guess in our ignorance, we'll never know what really happened. But
no.
In our ignorance, with Al Franken, we actually had video footage and photographs of him doing the inappropriate breast grab of the sleeping person on the plane.
That's true. That was pretty creepy.
That was creepy, and I'm
but
sure
he's a comedian. It was supposed to be funny, and I can see in the weirdness, because she's not like she was totally innocent in my mind. This is just my opinion. This is where I go. She was a playmate. She objectified herself for years for money, and Al Franken's trying to make a joke by doing that. It's like, it was a little creepy, but like I said before, I think an apology, a heartfelt apology, would have been enough.
Would have sufficed.
And I think the victim in that case, I forget her name, I think she would have been okay with that too.
I think so.
I believe.
Yeah. He never made contact. He never grabbed or assaulted or anything. He just made a bad joke that wasn't funny.
And a good point this other guy made, I think it was Mike from the Humanist Report. He was like, and he didn't hold any power over her. He wasn't her boss. Whereas in Biden's case, if it happened, he was her boss. He held power over her. So
back when he was Senator Biden.
That's a big difference,
Yeah, very true. And we just have to hold both options open in our head. And look how Trump partially came to Biden's defense, saying, I've been falsely accused many times over my life, and there's a ringing endorsement right there. That's you're in the clear now.
Yeah, I saw that too. That was kind of funny.
Speaking of making preparations, as we've lambasted Trump for essentially wasting February, and then blaming the governors, especially the Democratic ones, for not having everything they need.
That's something I kind of that really chaps my hide is the way he plays favorites. And it's
Yeah.
not surprising it's Trump we're talking about, but oh my God, that right there should be enough for fucking impeachment, in my opinion. That is
It's
fucked up.
messed
He's
up.
a
Yeah.
big ass child, man, and
He's
that's
just,
just uncool.
well, he's still playing politics at a time when the country has to come together. I mean, what was Franklin Delano Roosevelt lambasting Republicans back when we were fighting Hitler in the Battle of the Bulge and D-Day and all that? Was he doing politics back then?
Good
I don't
question.
know.
I don't know.
Maybe he was sniping. I don't
Where
know.
I go to is
But
when Social Security was passed, did they try to defund it? Did they try to say, oh, we're not going to go along with this, we're going to do everything in our power to bring it down? Or did they just say, okay, well, it passed, so let's do it, see
now
where it
let's
goes?
see what
I don't
happens
know
with
what
it.
happened there. Maybe they did try to defund it and try to take it to the Supreme Court and say it wasn't legal and blah, 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 like they're doing now with Obamacare and all that other
Yeah.
stuff.
But once again, back to preparation, though.
Yeah.
Point I wanted to make, I remember again reading an article, not just a headline this time. I read the whole article,
Mm-hmm.
and just one. So who knows? That's a sample size of one. Maybe it was fake.
Hard to
But
know.
President Trump owns a golf course and hotel. So I believe it's either Scotland or Ireland. I make maps for a living, but I'm a geographically ignorant person. And this golf course is right on the coast, right on the coast. And you know that President Trump has been a big climate change denier forever. It's going as far as to say that really this whole concept is a Chinese hoax to destroy our industry. You remember some of these, yeah. And this article pointed out how President Trump applied to, let's say, the Scottish government, where his golf course is, to have them assist in building a seawall on the coast to protect his golf course because climate change is raising sea level around his golf course. So he's all ready to make preparations when it affects his portfolio and what he's up to. But when it comes to protecting America against a pandemic coming in, what he did is wait until the stock market crashed. Then he declared a national emergency. Notice how I didn't really make that connection until just today when I was watching Robert Reich. He was examining a new political ad put out by MoveOn.org. Showed how Trump essentially did nothing but say, we've got it under control. It's one person coming in from China. It's 15 cases. It'll soon be near zero. But then the February 29th, when the stock market took its biggest dive ever, or was it March 1st, March 2nd, whatever, as soon as the stock market went down, then he declared a national emergency. And we're going to motivate, we're going to mobilize the full power of the federal government to handle this pandemic, and we're going to do everything we can. It wasn't until the stock market spoke that Trump listened. It wasn't until then. President Trump. I've got to remember to say President Trump.
It doesn't bother me if you don't say president. Just say Trump. He's just a Trump. That's all he is. He's just a Trump. He's not a president. He's just Trump doing Trump, being Trump.
That's fair.
He's not a leader. He's not even close to being a leader. Anyway, so but like to coincide with your point, you know who else does that kind of crap is Fox News. And we talked about that a little bit on the podcast the other day, whereas they were behind the scenes, they were making preparations for COVID-19 and all that. But yet they were spewing out the Trump bullshit where, oh, there's nothing to worry about, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, they were worrying about it.
And they were doing social distancing and wearing masks and sanitizing and making plans to work from home. Even I wouldn't be surprised. While at the same time, exactly, well, telling their their biggest show, I think, is Hannity or Ingram, one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Hannity averages 3 million viewers every night during the week. So they're telling their 3 million viewers, and I lived with one of them down in Key West, the people who I rented the cottage from. The gentleman was a big Fox News fan, Fox, always tuned into Fox News. So Hannity and Fox News was telling my landlord down there, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Go about your daily business. And this guy works at a campground down on Stock Island in the city of Key West. And so you're getting visitors from all over the place coming in and hooking up their RVs, and he was responsible for maintenance and fixing this and repairing that and doing mitigation efforts over there and doing electrical and plumbing. The guy could do anything. And Fox News was telling him, don't worry about it, go to work. And this mask I'm wearing, no, this is nothing. Don't worry about this mask I'm wearing. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. Yeah, it's like now, they're Fox is basically on the side of the protesters saying it's time to reopen up the economy. And they're saying, closing the economy also kills, which I'll give them that. I mean, to some degree, yes, I think it does. I think there is probably a mortality piece to that. You can't just close the economy and expect people to not die because of it. You know what I mean? There's suicides involved. There's other things, hunger, poverty,
domestic violence.
And then I'm not talking just in the U.S., but globally. There's there were riots in Sicily because of lack of food and lack of money to buy food. And I think I saw a stat. The World Health Organization said that if the economy doesn't bounce back when they finally get around to reopening it, there could be like 265 million people in poverty, and that means starvation. I mean, the numbers could get ugly. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Let's hope.
But I want to go back to Fox for a second. Hunter Carlson is promoting these protests and
Tucker.
I'm sorry, whatever his name is. And he totally, and this guy Mike Figueredo on the Humanist Report totally caught him in a bald-faced lie. He said that Fauci said that it's okay to go back. It's okay to be on Tinder and have sex with people and not worry about the virus. And that's not what he said at all. And it's just another example of Fox News just out and out lying to fit their narrative. And it's crazy that they get away with this. It's crazy that people don't catch on. It's crazy that people just buy this hook, line, and sinker.
Well, it is, Main Joe. And what I really get tired of is the way that the mainstream media, if that's really a thing, the way that they refuse to use the word that you just used, lying, lies, liar, tell it what it is. Instead, they'll say the controversy or the unsettling statement or something like that.
Yeah.
Call it what it is. Call it a lie. A spin, a twist, this or that.
Oh yeah.
Call it what it is. It's a lie. It's a lie. They're lying to you.
Fauci didn't say that. You misquoted him. You lied about what he said, period. We have recordings. We can debunk this stuff. We can show you.
Yeah, there are facts that we can go look up, They do exist. God.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's amazing. And let's talk about, I want to shift a little bit here to the primary, the New York primary specifically, because they've basically canceled it. And at first I was like, well, okay, if it means that people don't have to go out and vote, I guess that's a good thing.
Canceled or postponed?
Canceled. Just out and out canceled it. Not vote by mail, nothing like that. Just cancel it.
Yeah.
And at first I thought, well, Biden's got the nomination and maybe it's not such a big deal. But I found out today, the reason it's a big deal, the reason Bernie's upset about it and wants to still be on the ballot, even though he's endorsing Biden and Biden's all but locked up the nomination, is Bernie wants to still give people a chance to vote for him, and B, if he gets more delegates, then it gives him more leverage to influence the Democratic convention and the planks that they put in place.
Yeah.
What they stand for, essentially. And that makes sense. Yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, if I lived in New York City and I didn't get a chance to vote for Bernie in the primaries, I would be upset about it. Because, I want to give Bernie as much recognition, as much, support as I can.
As much love.
Yeah, and now they can't even do that.
Well, I put some thought into that, and I'm wondering if Bernie once again took a bullet for America. And let me explain what I mean there. Is he came out of the gate storming, took a commanding lead after the first three primaries.
Yeah.
Then it kind of started. It started going Biden's way.
South Carolina.
Yeah, it started there, and then one
Super
after
Tuesday.
another. Yeah. And then what happened after that was coronavirus hit. And I think Bernie, there's a chance, I'm speculating here, but all I'm doing again is praising Bernie's character and his dignity and how much he loves America. That he might have took a step back and said, you know what, we got coronavirus, the primary, the voting, the elections in the primary are going to be an absolute shite show. And we do not want to show a disunified, chaotic front from the Democrats to the rest of the world, especially the Republicans. I'm going to bow out now so that we can, Biden will lock it up. We're going to be good, and maybe he was taking another bullet like he did in 2016. He took a bullet there too.
Maybe. In 2016, though, at that point, he knew that they had their thumb on the scales and they weren't going to let him get the nomination.
Yeah.
I think this time around, he waited just about the same before he suspended his campaign as he did before. I don't think there was a huge difference in the amount of time he waited. And I'm going to correct you on another thing. You said he loved America. I think he loves the people in America. You know what I mean? I think he's such a people person. He's like the only politician that really understands that it's about the people. It's about how the economy, how the country, I want to use the word serves, but maybe that's not the right word. But the people that make the economy go, the work engines, the people that get up every day and punch the clock, and he knows that they're the backbone of this thing.
Yes, they truly are.
Experiment that we're doing called capitalism. That's basically killing the planet, but that's another topic.
Well, it's killing. It's an amazing thing. Capitalism got America to where it is right now,
and I'm loving life. I got a great house. I mean, I can't complain, but I know the way I'm living is not sustainable.
It can't be. It can't be sustainable.
It's not for as many people as we have on this planet. It just can't.
Yeah. I think it was Roseanne Barr that once postulated the concept of a maximum wage. Have you ever heard of the concept of a maximum wage?
No, I can't say that I have.
Now, of course, it doesn't. The minimum wage that's set. What is it? $7.50 an hour, something like that. I don't know.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, and when she said maximum wage, she didn't mean you can only make $12,816 an hour. That's not what she was saying. But it was. You can understand where she was going, though.
Yeah, I've heard the argument that there shouldn't be billionaires. I've heard that quite a bit when Bernie was hot and running good. Mm-hmm. And I haven't given that a lot of thought. I'm not sure if I agree with that or not, that there shouldn't be billionaires, but I bet you there could be a good argument made for that.
Well, there certainly, and it's an easy one to understand. It's the arguments against having billionaires, allowing billionaires. That's where it gets complex. Okay, if we pass a law that says billionaires are not allowed, then legally you can make $999 million, but you can't make that extra $1 or, and then where does the extra money go? I mean, Bill Gates became a billionaire by the age of 28. Then what happens to all the money coming into Microsoft? For every copy of Windows that was sold, where does that money then go? To his employees, to the people, to the stakeholders, to the shareholders, to the government. What?
Exactly. And a lot of that money is just this fake money, this stock market money that can, the stock market can dive tomorrow and he's not worth $1 billion anymore. I mean, if let's say my house was worth $1 million, well, I wouldn't consider myself a millionaire because my house is my house. I mean, it's not like I can buy things because I have a house that's worth $1 million.
Because you own a house.
I would have to take out a loan on my house in order to use that value that they say it's worth in order, I mean? It's all kind of funny money. And that's why I'm not so 100% behind that it shouldn't be billionaire thing. Well, how do you do that? Is it cash in hand or is it stocks? Because stocks can change in a heartbeat.
Yeah, exactly. And then Jeff Bezos, who's worth $120 billion or whatever. Mm-hmm. then he can manipulate his holdings or whatever, or stock value or this or that to say, okay, look, I'm not a billionaire anymore.
Yeah, put some in Panama, put some in the Seychelles Islands, Cayman Islands, yeah, wherever. There's lots of those little places to stick money.
Yeah. So I don't know. I love America. I'm comfortable. You're comfortable. Everybody I know is doing okay, but I feel like there's major room for improvement, but I really don't know how to articulate it.
I don't know the
how
path.
to describe it. The path to get. I don't even know the right questions to ask, really. I just read these headlines and I see these left-wing websites like Robert Reich and Raw Story and a lot of these.
They make sense, yeah.
And they do make sense. That's what troubles me so much. And then all I'm left with is trying to come up with the right questions then. And who do I ask the questions to? And what are the answers? I don't know. I think you and I, many times over the past year, we're almost a year old now.
Yeah.
We both strongly agree that 500,000 families going bankrupt every year due to medical bills is just dead wrong. Dead wrong.
Not in a country that's this rich. That's not right.
any country really, but especially one this wealthy.
Especially, yes. That's right. Yeah.
And where do you go with that one? That's at least we can agree on that. But the answer to it, I have no idea. I just know I hate it. But it's like saying I hate slavery. I wish I could go back to 1860 and abolish slavery because I hate it so much. But how do you do that?
Yeah, but I want to go back to Social Security. How did they get that passed? I mean, that was a pretty huge deal. I mean, there must have been old people just starved to death left, right, and center and living in poverty and squalor in order for them to pass something like that. Does it have to get worse? Does it have to be 1 million families going bankrupt every year? Does it have to be? The
numbers, you're talking numbers now. Exactly.
Yeah, what is the motivating factor here for politicians to finally suck it up and say, okay, we're going to do this for the people?
Well, Main Joe, you raise a great point there. It seems like the insurance companies and the people who profit mightily off of families going bankrupt every year, 500,000 families going bankrupt. It seems like they found that sweet spot, that number that we'll tolerate, that America will tolerate. But if it were 10 million families a year going bankrupt, then the American people wouldn't put up with that. But we'll put up with 500,000, roughly, up or down. We'll put up with 500,000 going bankrupt because it ain't my family. It might be my neighbor right here, but it ain't me.
I think you've hit on something. Yeah, they're just thinking. Maybe they just think this is the cost of capitalism. This is just what it costs to have such an amazing economy. You're going to have 500,000. You're going to have homeless. You're going to have people with diabetes who can't afford their insulin die. It's just part of it. You just got to accept it.
You're gonna have
is that
families.
What they're saying? I mean,
that's kind of it, isn't it? It feels like that.
But if you ask Shy Joe and Dojo and some of those our Republican friends, do you think they would say, "Yeah, that's just the price of democracy"?
Well, Dojo has said things along those lines.
Yeah, really? Okay.
That was after some cocktails, and I think he was trying to be inflammatory.
I have trouble accepting that.
Right, me too. Yeah,
because I know people that struggle.
Yeah. Well, and then you got to take one step further is, that Bernie and I think every Democratic candidate raised their hand and said, I support Medicare for all for illegal immigrants, people who are not American citizens. And I want to see everybody taken care of too. I really do. I want to see, especially kids. I've got this big soft spot for kids, and most of us do.
Yeah.
And, but politics are politics, and you can't just hand the election to the Republicans by saying you're going to take care of every illegal immigrant that crosses the border, because you will lose the election. Let's start with American citizens. Let's start there and then see what we can do, see how it works.
Yeah, but I was trying to explain to Shy Joe a long time ago that you think we're not taking care of them now? These people that are coming to the border trying to get into the country. I mean, we put them in camps or some processing unit. If they run into medical issues while they're there, we're gonna help them. it's not like we're just letting them die. I mean, oh, you traveled all this way to get into America and you want to live and work here, but oh, you don't have any insulin? No, we're not going to give you that.
Mm,
Sorry, can't help you.
yeah.
They're going to give them insulin, I assume. I mean, I don't
We would
know,
hope,
but
just
if we're that
basic
barbaric,
humanity.
then yeah, that's just
Mm,
basic humanity, man.
yeah, it's well, eventually we're going to get there, and I just hope it's in my lifetime. I hope I'm
Yeah,
still alive
I
when
think you're right.
when it happens.
I think you're right. Eventually, because I just saw more headlines. Again, I haven't dived into any of these stories, but they say that Medicare for all is really picking up. I think last I heard it was around 65% of the
Yeah,
voting
it's gone up. It was around 60, and it's
polling
gone up
was,
from there. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
which again just boggles my mind. Okay, well, if that many people are for Medicare for all, why do we have a Democratic candidate that says he'll veto it if it comes across his desk? I don't understand. People aren't informed enough to put two and two together, or where does that discontinuity come from? How does that happen?
I don't get it.
I
Yeah.
blame I blame the media. I'm just going to say it. I blame the media because I saw Jake Tapper get on there and say false crap about Medicare for all. And how many times did you ask that? Did you see them ask Bernie, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Bernie sat there and would explain it to him. This is how
yeah,
we're going to pay for it. You do
yeah,
think Bernie doesn't have a plan to pay for it? No, he has
yeah.
a plan to pay for it.
Mm,
But he got that question a zillion and one times. And
yeah.
apparently his answer wasn't something they would accept. I don't know.
No,
It's just
yeah,
so infuriating. I didn't say that word very well, but there it is.
yeah.
It
Totally agree. And
makes me furious.
Mangel, are you able to pause us for just a bit? Because I am dry.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's pause it. We'll be right back after these messages. And we're recording.
We're
All
back.
right, we're back.
Mangel, let me go and fill up my coffers here.
Drinks are freshened up. I opened a new Corona myself. It's my new beer of choice. Free advertising for a Corona.
During the coronavirus
During the
outbreak.
coronavirus, yeah.
Are they cheap right now? Are the Coronas really cheap?
No, the price hasn't changed. I've
Uh,
heard conflicting stories. That one story I heard is that no one's buying Corona anymore because of the coronavirus, and then I
yeah.
also heard a story that says that their sales are up. So I don't know what to believe on that case.
I heard another story that they stopped making it recently, that they temporarily suspended production of Corona. So, dude, the headlines are everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I really think that in middle school, we got to start introducing some curriculum, how to identify and research headlines,
And how to understand that you don't believe everything you hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go research it. And then even after you research it, don't even believe it then. Keep going after it.
Well, but you can't go after it forever. You got to find at least 2 or 3 corroborating stories, and then you can kind of say, okay, well, now, you compare it to people you ask people, hey, has this happened to you? Do you experience this? Is this true for you? Like, for example, this stimulus package and everything, it's like I still haven't got that $1,200 yet. I don't know if I am going to get that $1,200. But what we did finally do is my wife applied, because I'm basically an independent contractor, so I technically have my own business.
Mm-hmm.
And we applied for that PPE thing, or PPP,
the loan, essentially.
Yeah, basically that $10,000 loan that helps you keep afloat during the pandemic, and we actually got that. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to work. If we have to pay it back, if we don't have to pay it back, that's all kind of a gray area right now. But it does provide a sigh of relief a little bit. 10,000 is enough to say, okay, whew.
Yeah, all right.
Especially since I'm currently unemployed, it does give us a little breathing room, and I can proceed from here. Yeah, it's very nice. So that was a good thing, I think.
Talking about the employment market right now. Of course, it affects everybody differently because we all have different specialties and different skill sets and all that kind of stuff. And I've noticed a trend that's unsettling recently, and this is in my arena, my industry. And I'm a geospatial programmer, geographic computer programmer type of thing, and that's a fairly specialized skill set. Not many people can do that. And I'm all, even though I have a great job in that industry right now, and I'm so grateful for it, but everybody, we always have our eyes out for that next great job, that next wonderful opportunity. We're always looking. And so I'm on these job boards like Indeed and ZipRecruiter, and they're publishing all these jobs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not applying for them, but I'm just hitting like save that job, save that one, save that one. I want to see what happens with that. Are they gonna hire somebody, or is it a really lucrative thing? What's gonna happen with that thing? And I'm starting to get these emails now, past week or so, 2 or 3 a day, that are saying this job's been closed. They're no longer pursuing candidates. This one's been closed. This one's been closed. It's been closed. And not that they found a candidate and then you weren't selected or anything, but I'm starting to wonder. I don't mean to be alarmist here, Main Joe. It's not what I'm trying for, but it's just something I've noticed, even in a highly specialized industry, that maybe things are heading towards Great Depression levels in terms of economic detraction. Is that the word I'm looking for? Economic shrinkage.
Yeah.
Employment shrinkage and things. And I mean, during the Great Depression, when we had Pat Bagley on, he, as far as I know, he said the correct statistic: 25% of America was unemployed during the Great Depression. But as my dad reminded me, that means 75% of America was still working. They were still getting a paycheck. But it's still unsettling, and we don't know where it's going from here. We have no idea.
You think it's unsettling for you? I think it's unsettling for me. I'm unemployed and I'm actively looking for a job each and every single day. And yes, I told my wife a few weeks ago, the jobs are drying up. There's not as many people hiring. There's not as many things I can even apply for anymore. Yeah, I've noticed that, and it's not a good trend. And it's going to be interesting to see how the economy bounces back as we're doing this soft reopening. How many people are going to go out? Is it going to be enough for these businesses to stay open? Are they going to be able to? It's a lot of things in flux right now. The situation is still fluid. We'll just have to wait and see. That's all we can do,
Indeed it is. And it's not like you don't have skills. You could go get a $28 an hour data analyst job tomorrow, with your SQL and your database skills and that kind of thing.
Tell me where I'll go apply, because I haven't seen those either.
Well, that's another good point. Maybe those are drying up too. They might be. I'm talking companies like 1-800-CONTACTS and UHC, healthcare companies and stuff. They're always looking for data analysts that can write some SQL and generate a report for upper management. They're always looking for that kind of stuff.
Really?
And I'm not talking major database administrators where you install and configure and you script and you are the sole person in charge of the integrity of all the databases replicated across the company. I mean, that's highly specialized stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking people who can just tap into the database, write some SQL, generate some reports, and that kind of stuff is in demand.
Really?
As far as I know. I get approached, several times a week for jobs like that.
Maybe I need to update my profile, because I'm not getting those coming across my desk. I don't know why. I mean, primarily right now, I'm also looking for remote jobs, right? I pretty much have that as my number one keyword is remote. I've worked from home for the last 20 years, basically, and I want to continue to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. And that's a big one, and almost all of them are allowing for that, but they're putting a hard end date on that, like July or August, and then you've got to go on site. And, so I can work from home until July, but then I've got to go be in New Jersey or Philly or Boston or something. And I don't want to do that. I'm not interested in that. So that's where you get proactive. And that's where you put on your big confidence hat saying, all right, so that gives me 3 or 4 months to prove my worth. And then when they say, you got to come on site, and you say, okay, I'm not going to come on site. And they'll say, well, Main Joe's too valuable to us. We're going to let him keep working from home. type of thing. So yeah, keep that chin up and
Yeah,
keep those SQL skills sharp, and you'll definitely find something quick.
that's a good point. I need to do that more. I mean, I've been working on my JavaScript lately because it's one of the toughest languages I've ever tried to learn.
Mm.
Just so the syntax is so, I don't know, just random. It seems like.
It seems very obfuscated. If that's a
Yeah,
good
good
word.
word. Good word. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because it's so powerful. Because it can do so many things. It's not Java. It's not in the same level as Java, but
No.
it's a powerful language.
No, Java is closer to PHP, which I know pretty well, and other things. It's like JavaScript. Yeah, it's different, and it's a challenge.
Yeah, indeed. We've kind of drifted off of our mainstream.
We've gone back to unemployment, my situation, what you're seeing. 30 million people now, they're saying, filed for unemployment.
30 million.
And those are the people that were able to get through the system, get into the internet file for unemployment website that when it hasn't crashed or when it hasn't been overloaded. So that number could be greater than it is. I've heard that the economy is going to shrink, like the GDP is going to shrink by like 30%, they say, at the current trend it's doing. Yeah, things aren't looking great. We're just,
not at present. They're not.
That's part of the reason why so many people are saying, God, we got to open up this economy. Look what we're doing to the economy. And I can totally relate. I'm looking for a job. I can relate. However, at what cost? We got to balance the cost. I mean, there's a cost of closing the economy, people losing jobs, people committing suicide. There's a cost.
And saving lives.
But this virus, easy to catch, easily transmittable. We've already talked about on this podcast, people getting together to protest the opening of the economy or the lockdown, getting sick. I don't know if there's any deaths associated with that yet, but they got sick. And even Bill Maher, his show was saying, look, people, we just viruses are everywhere. Get over it. Get out there. Basically, wasn't that what he was saying? Did you check any of that out?
Yeah, I did. I saw that. Yeah, I always catch him on Saturday morning. I don't stay up that late, but I saw it Saturday morning. And that's what our immune systems are all about. And it's starting to sound like a lot of people are leaning toward the right-wing viewpoint of this. We got to open it back up, even if people are going to die.
Herd immunity, I mean, these are the people that are okay with 500,000 going bankrupt every year and over 30,000 dying every year because of lack of health care. Now they're saying, let's go out there and get sick and hopefully you make it through. Doesn't surprise us, does it? The one thing about him that bothered me, though, he was saying herd immunity. He kept bringing up herd immunity. And he was saying, look what Sweden's doing. Sweden's not doing anything different. There's no lockdown there. But then in the comments, I saw that they were saying, hey, wait a second, Bill. That's not what they're doing. They're not going for herd immunity. They are just trying to keep their economy rolling. What they're doing is they're wearing masks. They got their social distancing, the 6 feet. They say on the floors they have the spacing, just like they do here. I've seen it in Smith's, I've seen it in Costco, where they have the spacing on the floor. They're doing that in Sweden. So the only thing they're not doing in Sweden is basically doing the lockdown, saying everyone stay home.
Shut down. Yeah. And they do have a higher death rate and infection rate. They do, of their neighboring countries. That is true. And of course, then they go and interview somebody who lost their father, in Sweden.
Yeah, they like to pull on those heartstrings, don't they?
That's what media does. That gets clicks and views, and advertiser dollars. But it's a complex situation, and we've got President Trump leading us through it.
Which he's not leading anything.
But who really could lead us effectively? If Obama were in office right now, he took us through Ebola. And H1N1
and a hurricane, right? I believe was there a hurricane there?
Probably. He had 8 years. There's always a hurricane in 8 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he had a hurricane, and I think if I remember right, I'm just going by my vague memory. He did a much better job than Bush and his good job, Brownie, and the levees breaking in New Orleans and all that.
Fair.
Yes, I believe he did a better job than that whole thing. But
But to the current day, though, would Obama be doing any better than Trump has? I don't know.
Well, like I said in the last podcast, I think just his tone and his oratory skills, he would keep people calm.
Calm.
He would keep more people on the same team. Maybe we wouldn't have as many protests because they wouldn't feel that they had the president's backing, because they do. President's egging them on. We've talked about that in past podcasts.
That's fair. That's
Liberate
fair.
Minnesota,
Yeah. And also Obama especially during Ebola, he was all about we are going to follow the dictates that science tells us.
Yeah.
We are going that route where that's what my administration is going to do. And Trump is like half following the science and half following his gut instincts and what he wants, and 100% following the stock market. What can he do to get the stock market back up? That's his number one thing.
And Obama wouldn't be ruffling feathers in China. He wouldn't be calling it the Chinese virus.
No, he wouldn't. He'd be calling it COVID-19 like it's supposed to be.
And he would be trying to learn from what the Chinese did right, even though they did a lot wrong. They did some things right.
And learn from what they did wrong, too. He'd be learning from both of it.
Yeah.
So would you agree you'd rather have Obama as president right now than Trump?
Yes.
I mean, yeah. Okay, I'll agree with that, too.
110%.
Well, dude, I'd rather have Rick Santorum as president right now. It's, I don't know. And again, it gets down to a personal gut reaction to Trump. I just despise the man. And we've talked about it.
He's not qualified. I wouldn't hire Trump to mow my lawn.
No.
Let's be real.
Well, no, because he would hire a subcontractor to do it and then screw the subcontractor out of money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And did you hear how he's going through these Republican states and he's talking to the governors about reopening things and this and that? And he went to Nevada and he asked specifically about Las Vegas. How's the opening of Las Vegas coming along? When are you going to do that?
Wow.
And he's pushing governors to open up schools. It's like, dude, the school year is almost over. Number one, you realize this, right? And that was probably one of the biggest key things to keeping the virus from spreading as much, or keeping the curve flattened as much as it has been flattened.
Yeah. We've talked about this, I think, before with Big T, but I want to approach it again. What do you think about opening up at least some sports, like the NBA, to empty arenas? And at least give us some TV time,
It is a great escape, isn't it?
It truly is, and it seems like that could be done very safely. Test all the players, test the refs, test the,
So let's put ourselves in that situation. So
let's put ourselves there.
Let's say we're going to have a basketball game, a professional basketball game. No one in the stands other than maybe immediate family. Let's say by some quirk, we have testing capabilities. Everyone can be tested. What would be the downside of having that game?
Does it contribute to further infections in any way?
Well, but the key here again is that craziness, that testing. It has to be valid. It has to be ironclad. It has to be available. You test all the family members that are coming to watch the game. You test the officials. You test the broadcasters. You test the players. You test the coaching staff. It's a lot of damn testing.
Oh, that's a drop in the bucket.
Assuming all that testing could be done, I don't have a problem with it.
I don't either. As we could get hockey back up and running. We could get pretty much every sport back up and running. We really could. I don't know why they're not doing this.
It would be really weird to not have any people in the stands, but we got used to it with Colbert and Seth Meyers and the late night shows. So we get used to it with the sports as well.
Yeah. And let's talk about them here again in a minute after we get off this sports thing, because I'm enjoying this late night stuff. I'm starting to really enjoy it.
It's pretty cool. I love Bill Maher, how he inserts those laugh tracks from old time clips. It's hilarious. I love that.
From 1922.
Yeah, whatever. That's so good.
That's funny
shit.
But I think the sports could. I mean, either take the NBA commissioner Sterling. Is it Donald Sterling now? I want to say, or the baseball commissioner. I don't know who that is, or hockey, whoever it is. Man, talk about a bold statement that doesn't seem to have any downside. I don't see a downside to this. If the commissioner of the NBA said we are opening up next Friday to empty arenas and the TV rights, imagine how much TV revenue they're going to generate. They could do pay-per-view on that stuff now. And, you know, I'd pay $10 a game to watch Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert play again. I'd pay $10 a game. That'd be $40 a week. I would support it. I'm desperate for it. And I'd head down to my sports bar right down here, and I'd watch the ball game and have a French dip. And
well, give it some time. It may not be that far away. Right now, they're talking a lot about the draft, right? They're talking about the NHL draft. They're talking about
well, they just had
NFL
the NFL
draft. Yeah,
that just happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That was all remote,
and that worked, and people tuned in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that gave ESPN 3 days of programming, you know, other than miniature golf.
Sumo wrestling. Yeah, I think right now, I think the problem is the testing. We're still behind the 8 ball on that testing. It's not fast. It takes like 3 days to get it back. Rand Paul went to the fucking Senate gym and exposed a bunch of people when he got tested positive because it took 3 days to come back. Even your niece was saying it took her like 3 days to get the results
3 days.
back.
Yeah,
she was smart enough to stay put. Rand Paul is less smart than your niece.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, and she has much better hair.
That great smile. You know.
Yeah, man, she is a cutie.
And she can sing, and she's intelligent, and she's,
Oh, man. Yeah,
shout out to Joe, shout out to Kojo.
Yeah. She's something
so
else.
So glad
man.
she came on our podcast several times now. That's awesome. Appreciate
and hopefully we're going to have her and her mother on Tuesday. That'll be interesting.
I did notice that her podcast is getting a fair number of views. Now, I don't know if that's because she has so many friends. Or is it because of the title? This is, I think I put it something like COVID-19 testing positive. What was that like? I forget how I worded it, but you know, so people who want to know, okay, what's it like when you test positive for COVID-19? Yeah. What happens? What's the test like? I mean, she covered a lot of great stuff in that podcast for people curious about that. I think that might have brought some views in.
And then it's because she has so many friends too. The multitudes of people just love hanging out with Kojo. They love the girl, as we do, just as we do.
Absolutely. Well, when she shows up to the jam, it's awesome.
It's a treat. And it reminded me of when she described the process of the test itself, how miserable that was. And Brad Pitt as Dr. Fauci saying, okay, I don't know if I would describe the test as beautiful unless your idea of beauty is having a cotton swab tickle your brain.
Yeah, that was great.
That was funny.
I remember that, yeah.
And that's how Kojo described it.
Yeah, and it was so funny how she did that. She was like, they stuck the first one up, and before I could recover, they did the second one because they knew I probably, if they give me too much time, I wouldn't want to do the second one.
I wouldn't do it again.
They knew what they were doing.
And I guess, Minjo, that means that maybe the virus could exist in one nostril and not the other. They have to test both of them. It could be in one and not the other one.
You want a good test. You got to be thorough, right? You got to pay attention to those details.
Well, it's made me wonder, you know, I'm sure you're washing your hands 10 times a day like everybody is. Has it happened where I've gone to Target and picked up some lettuce and some bread and cheese and toilet paper and then come home? And of course, as soon as I get home, I wash my hands. Was it on my hands and I washed it down the sink? Was I that close to being infected? And because we know that's happened to some people. We know that's happened to some people.
Very interesting. Yeah. I know that we're not as vigilant, I think is the word, as far as disinfecting things. But when I go to the store, I'll disinfect the plastic bags to the best of my ability. Some of the packaging, if I'm able to, I'll disinfect the packaging. I'll disinfect my hands with those wipes, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's crazy. And even if we get like some dear friends of ours, when they found out that I lost my job and I had no income, they cooked dinner for us. And so they dropped off the food on our porch, right?
Nice.
And
Yeah.
so you wonder if, those containers that they left are those contaminated. It's just, it gets in your head and it's just I mean, there's a part
It
of me that
does.
wants to say, you know what, Bill Maher, you're right, fuck it, I'm just going to live my life, and if I get sick and die, fuck it, that's just the way it is. But I just
It's
don't know if that's the
yeah.
best course of action, though. I don't know.
Well, if time will dictate that for us.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, because
if
eventually we're going to get our, like I say, our guard's going to slip, and you're going to go pick up a thing of lettuce, and I don't know.
Well, we've been what, 7 weeks now? I think it's 7 weeks that we've all been on lockdown. I don't want to say lockdown because we're not locked in. I mean, if this is the idea, I mean, compare it to real
Well,
tragedies
yeah, we're
throughout
not
history.
welded into our apartments like the poor people in China. Some of those
In
people
Wuhan,
were.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But if this goes on for another month, 2 months, or whatever, there's going to be a breaking point where people are just going to go out. They're going to go to Denny's and order a meal, and if they get sick,
Well,
then okay,
it's opened up now. It's starting to happen right now. I mean, I watched this pandemic video with this expert epidemiologist, or the guy who knows about pandemics. He said you need to be prepared to stay in your home for 90 days, 3 months, 90 days. That includes food shopping. That includes shopping for toilet paper.
Mhm.
90 days, no leave. No leave 90 days. We haven't done that. We can't do
No,
that.
no, we
I
can't.
mean, no one's prepared for that.
Okay, now let's get even darker, if you would, for just a minute. Now, and this is like Isaac Asimov science fiction type of stuff. So we're in the midst of the worst pandemic since 1918,
Mm-hmm.
and this one is even worse by one measure in the transmissibility, the transmission. This one is much more infectious. And I mean, the one in 1918 was awful. It was terrible. But this
Okay.
one's even more transmissible.
I'll
Yeah.
accept the premise. I'm not
Thank,
convinced, but I'll accept the premise. Continue.
so here, thank you. So here's the dark part. Some science fiction writer. Well, no, let's not even go that route. Let's just go by nature herself. Um, it is guaranteed that at some point in the future, another dinosaur killing meteor is going to hit the Earth, right?
Oh, well, I
We
guess
know it.
possible. Yeah.
We know it's going to happen. Statistically, we know it's going to happen.
Okay.
And we know that there's going to come some pandemic in the future that is even more transmissible and even more deadly than the one we're going through right now. So
Quite possible.
that adds a little perspective, to our current situation. Is we can get through this one, and we'll get through that even worse one. But we know a worse one is coming. We're just primates on the crust of a cooling planet that is susceptible. We are all susceptible to something going to kill us. I guess that's where I'm heading.
You
It's
know, I hear you. I've been thinking about that a bit too. There's so many ways to die on this planet. I mean, have you ever seen that? I forget the guy, Seth MacFarlane, had this movie. It's called like 15 Ways to Die in the Old West or something like that.
A Million Ways to Die in the
Yeah,
West. Yes, I
yes.
saw it. I saw it in the theater.
Bill
Yeah.
Maher even made a cameo in that one. Did you remember Bill
Oh, I
Maher
don't
doing it?
remember him in
Yeah,
that.
it was
No.
hilarious. I love that movie, and it's so true. There's so many ways to die. I mean, you
Mhm.
can't go around like Bill Maher was saying. There's germs everywhere, and the reason we don't die is because we have what you call an immune system. He made a lot of good points. I
He
thought he
did. He
misrepresented
did.
what they're doing in Sweden, and I'm not ready to go out and resume my normal life just yet. But he made some good points, I thought, and we can't live in
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah. Live your life. He was essentially espousing what Darwin said. Some people live an average life and they live to a ripe old age and they have a happy life and then they die. And other people get to 10 years old and they get brain cancer, or they get an infection, or that they get an infection that their immune system can't handle. What was the big line on that one? It was, he said, I can see my dog in the driveway over there, just laying down in filth. And then tonight I'm going to have that dog up on my bed licking my face, you know?
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That was great. And then he said, hey, but that's where our immune system kicks in and says, don't worry, we got this. You're covered. You're okay. But not everybody has that immune system.
And he addressed that too.
He did.
Let's identify them. Let's protect them. They're the best of our ability, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Those who are compromised. Let's do what we can for them.
Yeah.
But we can't. So it feels like the right-wingers were prematurely correct on this one. Is we've got to open back up. We've got to open this shit back up. Like that movie, The Big Short. We talked about that last podcast. Brad Pitt's character, a banker, was disgusted by what was going on in 2007, 2008. Said, do you realize that every 1 percentage point, the unemployment rate goes up, 40,000 people die? And I didn't know that. And now we've suddenly jumped from a 3.5% unemployment rate up to 10, 12, 16%, whatever it is now.
It's probably, I haven't heard because it's probably so bad no one wants to talk about it.
So is the virus going to kill less people than the unemployment rate? These are big questions, and that's all we try to do really here is ask the questions. We don't have the answers. We're trying to ask the right questions. Because
we're realists. We don't buy everything we hear, and we weigh what we hear against what we know and what we've experienced in both of us. Combined, we have 100 years on this planet between the two of us. Dude, that's significant.
That's 104 years now, I think, actually. And really, that's the biggest gift. Not gift, that sounds boastful, but I guess the most humble thing we can do is strive to ask the right questions. Never try to give the answers, unless it's about computers or database or geographic information systems, then I can give you some answers there. But for the big questions, the important stuff that impacts society as a whole, all I can do is try to formulate a question that makes sense, because I certainly don't have the answers.
Right. Understand the situation to the best of your ability with the information you have at the time. Ask the questions, and then at some point you have to make a decision. Is it safe to go out for me right now or not? You proposed that social distancing jam, which I think it's a great idea. My wife and I are not sure if we're ready, but it's a couple weeks away. So maybe when the date rolls up a little closer, maybe we'll be more comfortable with it. Maybe it'll require a couple more weeks before we're comfortable with it.
I put it 2 weeks out. I purposefully put it 2 weeks out to see what happens between now and then. And I still think it would be safe. I think it would be safe if we did it tomorrow, if we did it right, did it the right way. But still, the unsettling times that we're in. Unsettling. And please notice again, I don't use the word scared, afraid, fear. Fear is the enemy. Don't ever be afraid of anything.
Well, have you ever seen those masterclass advertisements on YouTube? They had this one on the other day that I hadn't seen before, and it was this woman historian. And she talked about what it's like to be a historian. She said in her masterclass, she's going to talk about the 4 presidents that she knows the best because of her 50 years of research. And she made an interesting point. She's like, when you know your history, it's easier. It makes life a little more fulfilling because you feel like you're part of something. And that's kind of, I just thought she made some really great points in that little spiel. I wish I had the money to sign up for her class because I think I'd find it fascinating because I've always loved history. But yeah, I don't think we're looking, we're looking at 1918 a lot, but I don't think we're looking deep enough. We're not trying to figure out, okay, what worked then, what didn't work, what did they do that? I'm not hearing any of that because like we talked about in past podcasts, some communities like St. Louis shut down. Others like Philadelphia did not. And there were vastly different outcomes. So what could we learn from that? How did the St. Louis shutdown, how did they get it ramped back up?
What did the numbers tell us?
Yeah, and was that a good idea? Or was that a bad idea? Did Philadelphia maybe lose more people, but their economy was stronger afterwards and came? I don't know. But we need to be asking these questions and looking at our history and learning from it.
Yeah. So once again, not to defend Trump, but to at least say don't misrepresent him. And I'm not accusing you. I'm announcing this to the world that this guy is faced with an unprecedented situation. Where do we go? Open everything up right now? It's.
If you were president, wouldn't one of the first things you do is get a really good historian on your fucking cabinet?
Yes.
I would.
Several of them. Yeah. Several of them. And infectious disease experts and military experts.
Constitutional scholars.
Emergency response experts.
Yes.
Everything. Don't disband the groups that are. Didn't he disband the pandemic response team that Obama put in place in the White House? I think I read an article.
I don't know. He's fired just about everybody that gives him any kind of pushback. I read where he fired fairly recently, like the head of the vaccine research person, because he pushed back on Trump a little bit, and he fired his ass. You can't run a country that way. That's just ridiculous.
And then he wants to defund WHO, the World Health Organization.
And he doesn't want to bail out the United States Postal Service. He doesn't want to help them at all.
Colbert said, "Oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense. So your house is on fire. Excuse me, honey, I'm going to go burn down the fire department. While my house is on fire, I'm going to go."
So I will say that you're right. He was handed a shitty situation. However, it's not that unprecedented. We have been through this. We have survived the 1918 pandemic. There are lessons to learn from that.
Yeah. We might start, let's see, what we might need to do as a country, our leadership might need to do, is start looking at this in 5, 6, 8-year increments. When did Ebola happen? I think was that 2013. SARS, I think, was 2004. H1N1, I don't know when. MERS, a lot of them, a lot of deaths, thousands of deaths. Nothing like we're seeing today. Nothing like we're seeing today, but big impact. So we got to start saying, okay, it's 2020 now. So let's look for the next big one in like 2026, and then 2031, and then 2038. Let's keep these offices staffed. Let's keep the resources on hand.
And keep being prepared for these things. Like Kyle Kalinske says, we should have that big pause button that we hit when shit like this happens, One glimmer of hope I did see.
A glimmer.
I saw it on my notes that I was working on before I started the podcast. And it was basically, I think it was the head of the CDC, I believe. And he was saying, we are working toward preparedness for in the fall, if this flares up again. Not that it's necessarily not flared right now. New York's still peaking as far as I can tell. But he says they are working on preparedness. So let's hope that is true. Let's hope that's the case. So that, and then even after the fall, like you say, down the road, 6 years from now, let's always be striving for preparedness. And I think we could take that on ourselves a little bit. Like, I was saying that pandemic expert said 90 days of no leave, not even to get groceries. How many of us are capable of doing that, number one? And those who are capable, how many of those people do it? I know technically when I had a job, we were probably capable of doing it, and we've done some of it, but I don't think we were prepared for 90 days.
Fair. That is a good glimmer. You did give us a good glimmer of hope right there, that if this thing, let's say it wanes, the coronavirus outbreak wanes a little bit in June, July, August, and then flares up again in September, October, we're going to be prepared. We're going to kind of know. We've been through it now for 2
Let's
months.
hope.
And
We're going to have the
let's
same
hope.
president.
Yeah,
That doesn't
yeah.
fill me with a lot of hope. However, some people
The
like Fauci and others are competent, and hopefully we'll be prepared.
And Fauci is convinced this will be here in the fall. He did say that.
It would be foolish to think it's not going to be.
Well, it would be foolish.
I think
it
so.
would.
Prepare for it.
Would
Even
be,
if if it doesn't happen, great. But let's prepare for
well,
it.
caution is the greater part of valor, or whatever that is.
Oh, what about the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure?
There's another one. Yeah. So if it does flare back up, if we start seeing hot spots around the country, Michigan, California, New York, whatever, then the people aren't going to need, the populations are not going to need a lot of goading and prompting. They're going to know what to do. They're going to know. And it might stem it a little bit, but that still doesn't take into account what kind of economic impact will we have then? What kind of devastation are we going to have then? Now, here's a question for you, Main Joe. One that was raised last night when Dojo and Big T were here. Is it's a matter of perspective. And I'm not expecting an answer from you at all. Please, when I postulate this, I'm not looking for an answer. Again, I'm looking to just raise the question, and it's one of perspective. So we do know, let's look at what we know, the facts on the ground. We know there is a bad economic impact going on right now. The economy is cratering. It's going down. And well, I shouldn't say the word cratering, because that colors it in a way that I possibly shouldn't do. But okay, now let's look at some other parts. Well, I went to Jersey Mike's for a sub sandwich this last week with my neighbor. And we went to the restaurant, and you can get in line. You can go into the restaurant. You can't eat there, but you can get in line and order your sandwich. It took us 20 minutes just to wait in line to get our order in, because DoorDash was, there were 4 workers in the restaurant busily making sandwiches and getting them out the door. And I mean, there was economic activity was going on. It was happening. That's one example. Walmart, Instacart, Amazon, others, Target, Costco, they're hiring right now. They are hiring hundreds of thousands. They are desperate for workers right now, mainly to box up orders and deliver them, So there is still economic activity going on. There is some health there. So what I'm asking then is perspective. How bad is the economic impact going to be? We can still see economic activity happening, yet we can see 30 million people apply for unemployment insurance. Let's, I guess, calm down and gain some perspective on how bad is this really. And again, I don't ask for an answer, maybe for a perspective from you. What do you see? Do you still see economic, when you go to Costco? Are they holding you in line because there's too many people in the store?
I haven't seen that yet. No, but the stores are way emptier than they were before.
Yeah,
shelves are emptier. They say they're expecting, like, this is all just guesstimations, right? 30% GDP loss. 30 million people unemployed. I haven't heard about a lot of homelessness yet, which interests me a bit, because how are people paying their rent then? Because I haven't heard anything about rent freezes or anything like that. So what, is that going to happen next month? Or people, how is that happening? Are they putting it on their credit card? So yeah, I haven't seen a lot of unrest. I haven't seen, like in the Great Depression back in the 30s, Dust Bowl years, people basically have no home, and they're setting up what they call it the Hooverville in Central Park in New York City. I haven't seen anything like that. We have seen long lines at food banks and things, so we have seen that.
Yeah. I guess the word I'm looking for is devastation.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I haven't seen the out and out devastation that we did during the Great Depression back in the 30s.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, I think. That shows people were somewhat prepared or somewhat able to adapt to this situation.
Or people were resilient and they can handle what's going on. Most of us
somehow
are in a situation we can absorb what's going on.
And maybe it's still early, maybe it's still coming, but with people going back to work now, people are getting antsy, people want to get the economy back up and running. I don't know. I guess I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that maybe we won't see that devastation.
That's the best way to be.
Bounce back.
Like Marty Dufresne said in Shawshank Redemption, hope is the best thing. Hope is the best thing.
Got to keep it alive, man.
Yeah. I mean, the worst thing that happens is that you die and you don't wake up tomorrow and you're gone and life goes on. It keeps going on. You notice I'm trying to keep a big, bright smile going.
All right, buddy. With that, I think we should probably wrap it up. I'm not sure how long we've been talking, but it's got to be at least an hour.
It's 10:20 now, so it's been another great one.
It's been a good one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Main Joe. Let's look forward to my sister. You get to meet my sister hopefully soon.
Yeah.
As long as Kojo responds. I don't know if she wants to be on a podcast with her sister, with her mom.
And I still don't know if you'll have to get back with me. Well, maybe we can talk about this after I wrap this up. But just that one video podcast we did that right now is just private. I'm not sure if she ever watched it. Did she ever get the link?
Oh, is that Kojo?
Can I put it public? I put Becky's public.
Yeah.
Well, that one's out there. Hopefully that's okay. Kojo specifically said she wanted to wait and see it, but I don't know if she's seen it. I'm still waiting for the yay or nay. So I'll just keep it private until I know for sure, because I don't want to ruffle any feathers or anything. It's not worth it when we got 4 viewers, It's like...
I appreciate that. Go ahead and make it public. And if there's any blowback, which I highly doubt, then we can remove it. But go ahead and make it public.
All right.
It's a non-issue. That's a non-issue.
All right. So there you heard it, viewers. You're going to get 2 podcasts this round. When I post this one, I'm making that one public.
2 for the price of 1 tonight. Yeah.
All right. Give us the old outro there, buddy, and I'll wrap this up.
Well, man, Joe, thank you again for getting me out of my house for an hour on this quarantine spectacle that we're on. Beautiful Sunday night, and thank you again for joining us on the Two Joes podcast. Any comments, list them below and let us know what you're thinking about things and what you might like us to cover on the next Two Joes podcast.